Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us getting our show to others and help us get to our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV, on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content, Going Deeper Within, on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Brandon Jenkins. Brandon is a Navy veteran, the founder of Tier 1 Coaching and Tier 1 Life Insurance, and co-founded the Leadership Ready Room. I love that because I know exactly what that is. He partners with growth-minded leaders to align purpose with impact so they can lead with confidence and elevate their teams. Jenks, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Enrique. Man, I really am grateful that I'm able to have this conversation with you today.
Well, so am I. I am excited to bring your blueprint to our audience. And folks, we will be speaking about From Purpose to Power, the blueprint every growth-minded leader needs to elevate their team. But before we get into that conversation, Brandon, tell us a little bit about you.
So 22-year Navy vet. I'm actually on terminal leave right now. So I've got the obligatory beard going for those who are watching me on YouTube right now. And 4 years at the academy. So I always sneak it in and say I got 26 years like you, Enrique. But a helicopter pilot by trade. Real passion, though, was the team environment. So through my 26 years, it was being around other folks who were all part of something bigger, who could all share in the same mission and who were contributing to a common purpose. That's what really kind of lit my fire and kept me going past the initial obligations that, all service members have, with the initial contract. So, all of that kind of led me to my final tour, which was as a leader development professor at the U.S. Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm in Rhode Island now, and that's where I'm making my transition from. I'll pause there. There's a lot of routes we can take, but I'll put it back in your hands, Enrique, to see what's coming up for you.
Well, I tell you, folks, that you never know where your paths will lead you. And Brandon and I in Mayport and Rhode Island, because I went to both the Senior Enlisted Academy and the CMC Cobb School, which is up in Rhode Island. But the HSL squadrons were a big part of my life because I was a weather briefer. Now, Brandon would get those briefs before moving on to his daily task of flying around and doing his training. But it's amazing how from those positions and those journeys in our lives, we never realized we crossed paths. You may have been running around with a dash form with my signature on it. Who knows? But it's always nice to see. Now, as you ended your career teaching leaders, instructing leaders, your leadership approach emphasizes aligning purpose with impact. Why is that alignment so critical for leaders, and how does it influence team performance?
I think it might be helpful to go back on a little bit of a detour, if that's okay, with just letting you and folks kind of know where that even that idea even originated for me. Um, Gosh, I was a department head. So for that's like mid-career 04 level. I was finishing up that department head tour, and my commanding officer asked me a question that really was an aha moment for me. He asked me, Jenks, why do you want to be a commanding officer? Like, why do you want to continue, in other words, on the path that you're on? And at the time, my answer was, well, because it's the next step. It's just the next thing I'm supposed to do, right? And with a little help from him, a dear mentor of mine, he's like, well, Jenks, I think you may want to think that through a little bit more because continuing on the path that you're on, it's not easy. And you're going to need a little bit more than just, well, that's because it's what I'm supposed to do. So that was really an aha moment for me that sparked my curiosity and interest in figuring out what was important to me, like values, passions, purpose. Like what am I supposed to be doing on this planet? And why am I feeling some alignment here in this on this path I'm on in the military? What is that? What is it that I'm really aligned with? What is it that's driving me? What is it that lights me up about this? And so that kind of sparked my initial interest into, I was very introspective then. Along comes Simon Sinek's Start With Why book, which I read that and was like, man, that resonated a lot. Like, wow, people buy why you're doing something. They don't buy what you're doing. I wasn't selling anything as a military officer, but it just resonated with me. Like I wanted the folks on my team to like be attracted and aligned with something deeper than just me giving orders or telling them what to do. So that resonated. And then fast forward even more, before I was taking command of my squadron, I was the XO and I had about 2 months until I took command. I recognize that I've done a lot of work, a lot of introspection. I have a lot of kind of understanding about what it is that's driving me. But I just really always admired the leaders that I worked with who seemed to just have a natural way about them. They knew who they were. They weren't trying to copy and paste other leaders. They had, it seemed to me, that they just knew their purpose. They knew what they were uniquely supposed to be doing. And that resonated with me. It attracted me and it made it so that those leaders were the ones that I would do 24 hours of work straight in order to get something done for the team because I knew that I didn't want to let that leader down. Right. So I hired a coach. I hired my own coach before I took command to help me with a little bit more clarity, kind of take all of these thoughts I've been having about purpose, passion, values, core values, right? Take all of that and just kind of have a third party, some outside perspective who I knew was there for me, asking me questions that were for me to gain that clarity. I knew that I needed that to lead like those leaders I admired, not to copy and paste them, but to find my natural style, which to me means find my purpose, what I'm uniquely meant to do, why the Navy's hiring me to be a commanding officer. They don't want clones, right? They need me, for my uniqueness. And so let me pause there, Enrique. Like that's my story with how I even came to realize how important purpose was to my leadership.
And I tell you, that's a powerful perspective you just shared. Not many, I don't know, and I served at the senior enlisted for quite a while. I don't know many COs that have hired a coach to help them with command. And what an amazing example of what true leaders should be considering when they have a ton of weight of people that they are leading, either by direct leadership or by proxy of your position. It takes a clear mind, a clear heart to lead with purpose, but more importantly, to even know that your purpose has to be found, right? And so behind you, you have this wonderful chart and you use a visual blueprint to guide leaders. Can you walk us through what that looks like and how it helps leaders gain clarity and confidence like you did?
So when I take a leader through blueprint process, I'm not it's not something separate from your life. It's not something separate from your leadership. We start from day one with you bring to me what's going on in your life. What's coming up for you? What's a challenge you're facing? What's a conversation you had that really lit you up or that really just de energized you? What is a growth goal that you have right now? You know, and we take those everyday real life challenges and what you're caring about and what you're working on. We take those and we go deeper. We go layers deeper on those so that we actually get to your assumptions and belief about them and why they're important to you, really, like what's important to you. You know, for example, I want to help people. Well, what does that even look like to you? What does helping people look like to you? Oh, well, it's, they didn't know how to do something before, and then I illuminate a way for them forward. Okay. Well, what is it about illuminating that path forward, right? And we just go deeper and deeper. And so it creates this infinite loop. So I'm helping you pull out, and this is all you, by the way. I'm just helping you reveal this stuff about you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what's important to you. But as we move forward, we're pulling those out and we're jotting those down somewhere. And then we begin to create this, what you see behind me for all those who are watching. We pull them out so that you have a visual kind of representation of all this work you've done to figure out, to pull out, to reveal what's really important to you, what matters to you. And then when you have that, we take a look at, again, the context of your life. Where are you at in this chapter? What's the organizational mission or your business mission or your family mission? What is that right now? And so we take your context and we start to say, all right, what players on your team, what parts of you are really jumping out that can really help you in this stage of your life? And that's how we begin to clarify down to get really what's lighting you up. And that's how we get down to clarify, what do you believe your purpose is right now? And here's where the infinite loop comes in. Now, with that clarity, now again, we're going into, what are you doing? What are your challenges? What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And then we say, okay, well, where on your blueprint is that connected? You've said that this is incredibly important to you. Okay, how's that lining up? And with that, we can start to align not only your leadership, but your life. You can start to align how you intentionally design your days and move about your days. And you can intentionally align that in a way that energizes you, that keeps you oriented towards your true north, that keeps you oriented toward your purpose. And starting with you, if you're able to do that, that just enhances your ability to help your teammates do that, to help your teammates dig in and connect with that deeper purpose, right? Because that's what's going to keep them wanting to move forward when motivation dies, when they're on, their 14th or 16th hour of work that day because they're trying to get something over the finish line for you. It's that connection to a deeper purpose that trumps motivation any day of the week.
And such an impactful process to go through, because as a coach myself, I understand that most leaders don't know the why behind most of what they do. Similar to your previous story, hey, it's just the next thing that I'm supposed to do, right? And then you have mentors and coaches that say, well, let's talk about that, right? But what are some common challenges you see growth minded leaders face when trying to elevate their teams, and how do you help them overcome those hurdles?
Well, you said a key element there, growth minded. And so the reason I like to work with growth minded leaders, let me define what growth minded means to me. Growth minded to me is I believe that I can continue to learn new things. I believe that I can continue to develop throughout my life. I am not the type of person, if I'm growth minded, I am not the type of person who been there, done that. There's nothing you have to teach me. There's nothing I have to learn right now. Okay. So that's like a prerequisite to even work with me, because I don't want, that's like foundational. That's a mindset. If you don't have that, then you're going to be wondering the whole time, like, I mean, what are we doing here? What do I have to learn? I've already got this all figured out, worked for me my whole career. It'll continue to work for me. So that's like prerequisite number one. So, but what I do find a challenge that growth minded leaders have is they still have this idea that maybe they are, not that they can't learn or develop anything, but that they want to provide that value for their team. And it's like, I'm supposed to have all the answers, right? I not, or I can't show any chinks in the armor. I can't, kind of let folks know that I don't know the answer, even though I know in my head, like, I have a lot to learn. It's just one of those things, like, you get to a certain point in your career, you're a leader now, you've got a team working for you, and you just think, well, I mean, I'm here because I'm supposed to have the answers. I'm supposed to know what to do. When in reality, it's like, no, like, how can you be the conduit for your team, for them to all be empowered to do what they're supposed to do, right? To in service of the greater purpose and the greater mission. And how can you, when you shift that mindset, you stop going into every meeting with the mindset of, okay, I need to figure out the answer here. I need to figure out the way forward and make this decision. And it becomes more of, okay, how can we all together leverage the collective perspectives of everybody in this room and on this team? How can we leverage that and figure out the best approach moving forward? Now, sure, you're a leader, you're in a leadership position. Ultimately, you will likely have to make a decision. It's how you go about that, that I think, especially transitioning new leaders who are either moving from being an expert to leading experts, or who are leading a small team to maybe they jump up to an executive position. That's different level, right? It's a different collaboration expectation. And you're no longer being paid to be the expert widget maker or the expert pilot or the expert weather briefer. Now you're being paid to really bond those other experts that are on that team. And so I think that that's kind of one of the, we kind of went all over a little bit there, but that's really one of the things that's tough for leaders, especially the more responsibility they get, the higher, or the more teammates that they have.
And the mindset between I and we really separates a lot of leaders. We both worked for leaders that have an I mindset and a we mindset, and we know the results. We feel the impacts. So, in your experience, what distinguishes a leader who simply manages from one who inspires and mobilizes their team toward a shared vision?
Well, I think a lot of it starts with what we've been talking about: self clarity, clarity of purpose, growth mindset, humility. And when I say humility, I mean you're super confident. You understand, you've done a lot, your team's done a lot. However, you have good situational and self awareness to know that when you may need help, when there's something to learn. And so, the, I guess maybe to get even more specific there, that type of leader is going to be doing things to create or foster an environment for their team to work in, an environment where their team feels safe to bring up their perspectives and opinions and ideas, even when maybe they're not 100% sure they're the right thing for whatever you're trying to accomplish. The environment where teammates are free to bring up and admit mistakes and admit failures and point out where something's not working, some system's broken, and it may be theirs, but they're willing to admit it anyway without fear of repercussions, like major repercussions, like just for bringing it up. Okay. I'm not saying that all your teammates can just slack off and never get it right. What I'm saying is the leaders that create the environment where their teammates will speak up for that because they know that you are going to see it for what it is and then work to get better, work to improve. And they see that you're willing to admit mistakes and when you mess up, right? And that you're willing to improve and get better. I think that's the difference, right? That it's that the leader who's trying to create that environment versus the leader who is just showing up. They got to show up at 8, they leave at 5, and there's a checklist of things they have to do. And there's some that their teammates are responsible for. And all they're doing all day long is just managing checklists and managing to-dos and never actually having any conversations about purpose or vision or working to develop their teammates. I guess that's another distinguishing thing, Enrique. And then I'll give it back to you. One of my favorite ways to think about leadership and great leaders is that they are working to make their teammates better. And not that there's anything wrong with their teammates, but I'm talking about it from the growth minded conversation we had earlier. We all can develop and grow and improve and learn. And the greatest leaders that I've worked for, they're interested in helping you do that. And they do it themselves.
Yeah, very true. And the separator there is they do it for themselves too, right? A lot of times we get in positions where we can lead, and surely we may have the background and the ability to do that in groups and whatnot. But then you turn around and you look at that leader, and they are not doing not even what they're saying. They're probably doing worse sometimes. And so it's very important for you to recognize that as a leader, it begins with you, it ends with you, and the benefit, though, is for your team. So as long as you can do that, you'll be doing good. But there are some leaders, Brandon, that are feeling stuck. So for leaders that are feeling stuck or unsure about their next steps, what's the first thing they should look at when trying to realign, let's say, with their purpose and reignite their impact?
I think the first thing that they have to do is actually want to do that, to actually believe that that might benefit them. It goes back to mindset. If people are telling me I need to do this and do that, or I should like really consider going deeper, reflecting and figuring out my purpose, right? You should be doing this, Jenks. Okay. You told me that, Enrique, but if I don't actually believe that I need to do that or that there won't be some benefit there, then I'm not really going to do it. I'm not going to, maybe I'll start down that path and then I'll be like, I don't want to keep doing this. It's uncomfortable. I don't really believe I need to do it anyway. And so I stop. Right. So belief. Um, okay. And so without just saying, well, the first step is that you have to believe, because, okay. So that's easier said than done. It might just be tune in, notice, like listen. And by that I mean like what are you noticing about the way your team interacts with you? What are you noticing about your energy levels and your like how are you feeling? You're feeling heavy? You feeling light? Just start to tune in a little bit to what your days are like, what your engagement with your organization, with your team is like. Um, and start to kind of just ask yourself, what would it be like if I was tuned into what I really am meant to be doing? Another way to help with the belief is we talked about mentors earlier. Um, Man, mentors are huge. Usually, most leaders that I've encountered, there's some mentor in their life, at least one, usually several, that they can go to and have a conversation about this. Hey, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing that maybe I should be more in touch with my purpose and core values. And you know, what what do you think about that, mentor? Whatever your mentor's name is, and just start to gain other perspectives. That's probably one of the most important things we can do as leaders is to be open to other perspectives, listen to other perspectives. Sure, you need to know where that perspective's coming from, right? But once you have vetted that a little bit, be open to a different way of thinking, a different perspective on things, and and then be willing to kind of test it out a little bit, test it out against your own assumptions, against your own beliefs, and see if there's maybe some of your beliefs and assumptions, maybe they're not serving you anymore. Um, So yeah, it's like tuning in, noticing how you really feel. Like, is this like, do you believe that this is your purpose? And what would it be like if you kind of could tune into that and be willing to get different perspectives from people, whether it's a mentor, close friends, maybe it's family, maybe it's a coach. Um, I will say that the potential, like you're going to have a hard time making a lot of progress with a coach if you don't believe, if you don't believe that you need to change, or that if you don't want to change, if you don't want to make these discoveries, you would have a hard time with a coach. So if that's you, you may want to start with friends, mentors, colleagues, bosses that you respect, who've maybe been there before, just to get a taste for some different perspectives.
And even that realization that you don't want to is a start, right? Because maybe before you didn't even know that you didn't want to, or you were not able to commit to something because there's just something so strong within you. And a lot of the conversations I have with my coaches and in coaching sessions is, what are you present to, right? So that realization of how are you feeling? What's resounding in your head? What is that thing that's preoccupying you right now? And then start to clear that out so that then you can have a great session. But yeah, uh, you know, this is ground zero. If ground zero is not ready for the building and it's not ready for the foundation, you have to take care of that, right? So wonderful discussion, wonderful ways of leaders to look into some of these things that were just discussed. And Brandon, what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer, listener follow you or support you?
So I am active on LinkedIn every day. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Brandon L. Jenkins. Um, and I love when you interact with me there on my content, DM me, very reachable there. Tier1coaching.com is my website where I talk a little bit more about blueprint process, So you can kind of look and see how that infinite loop kind of happens, if you want it, if you were interested in that. And then leadershiprr.com is our new, just launched. We're building out the first Ready Room in Leadership Ready Room, which is a peer leader development community where you also learn peer coaching as a way to help the other leaders on the team, help them and yourself grow, achieve what you want to achieve, and lead your teams more effectively.
Well, folks, we'll have all those links as part of the show notes and video for you to get a hold of Brandon, everything that he's doing. Look, he started saying ready room. I'm in my flight suit in my head. I'm getting ready to sit down in a chair. And if you don't know anything about aviation, at least naval aviation or aviation in general, the ready room is where you go get your brief. Pilots do nice, cozy leather chairs. And you start briefing. But Brandon, a wonderful way to encourage leaders to get aligned. And so thank you for all the work that you are doing in that regard. Folks, today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends Magazine, the Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.